The red dress had cost her 2 weeks of overtime pay, but Simone Carter felt beautiful as she walked into Romano's restaurant. The silk fabric hugged her curves perfectly, and the deep burgundy color made her dark skin glow under the soft lighting. She had spent an hour on her makeup, making sure every detail was perfect for this special night. 5 years of marriage deserved celebration, and she had news that would make this anniversary unforgettable. Trevor was already seated at their usual corner table, scrolling through his phone with that distant look she had been seeing more often lately. He barely looked up when she approached, offering only a quick nod before returning to his screen. The candles flickered between them, casting shadows that seemed to match the growing darkness in their relationship. "You look nice," he said without really looking at her, his voice flat and distracted. Simone slid into her chair, her excitement dimming slightly. She had imagined this moment differently. In her mind, Trevor would have stood up, kissed her cheek, told her she was stunning. Instead, he seemed more interested in whatever was on his phone than in celebrating their marriage. "Thank you," she replied, trying to keep her voice warm. "I wanted tonight to be special." The waiter appeared with menus, but Simone already knew what she wanted. She had been planning this dinner for weeks, thinking about every detail. The champagne she wanted to order, the way she would tell Trevor her news, the look of joy she expected to see on his face. Now, sitting across from her husband who couldn't even put his phone down, she felt her carefully planned evening slipping away. "So," she began, reaching across the table to touch his hand, "I have something important to tell you." Trevor finally put his phone down, but his expression wasn't the loving attention she craved. Instead, he looked irritated, as if she had interrupted something important. "Actually, Simone, I need to talk to you about something first." Her heart skipped. Maybe he had planned a surprise too. Maybe he had been distant because he was nervous about his own announcement. She smiled, ready to hear whatever romantic gesture he had prepared. "My mother called today," Trevor said, his tone businesslike. "She's had some health issues lately, and she can't live alone anymore. She needs someone to take care of her." Simone nodded, feeling sympathetic. Patricia had always been difficult, but she was getting older, and family was important. "That's tough, honey. What did you tell her? Are we going to help her find a good care facility?" Trevor's jaw tightened. "No, that's not what I'm saying. She's moving in with us." "I already told her yes." The words hit Simone like ice water. She blinked, certain she had misunderstood. "What do you mean, moving in with us?" "She's moving into our house. Permanently. I picked her up this afternoon and helped her pack. The moving truck will be there tomorrow morning." Simone felt the world tilt. Around them, other couples were laughing, sharing intimate conversations, celebrating their love. At their table, her husband was telling her that his mother was moving into their home without even asking her opinion. "Trevor, you can't be serious. You didn't even talk to me about this." "I'm talking to you now," he said, his voice getting harder. "Look, my mother raised me. She sacrificed everything for me. Now it's my turn to take care of her. I thought you would understand that." The careful composure Simone had built all day began to crack. "Understand? Trevor, this is our home. Our marriage. Don't you think this is something we should have discussed together?" "There's nothing to discuss. She's my mother, and she needs help. End of story." Other diners were starting to look their way. Simone could feel their curious stares, and her cheeks burned with embarrassment. This was supposed to be their celebration, their special night. Instead, she was being told that her life was about to change completely, and she had no say in it. "How long has this been planned?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Trevor shrugged. "A few months. Mom's been having problems with her neighbors, and her health has been declining. It just made sense." "A few months?" Simone repeated, her voice rising despite her efforts to stay calm. You've been planning this for months and never thought to mention it to me. I'm mentioning it now. The casualness of his response broke something inside her. Simone had been married to this man for 5 years. She had supported his dreams, worked extra shifts to help pay for his business ventures, stood by him through every challenge. And now he was treating her like a stranger whose opinion didn't matter. I can't believe you, she said, her voice shaking. Today is our anniversary, Trevor. Our 5th anniversary. I got dressed up, I made reservations at our special place, and you're using this night to tell me that your mother is moving into our house. The timing isn't ideal, but it couldn't wait. Mom needs to know she has somewhere to go. Simone looked at her husband, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. When had he become so cold? When had he stopped caring about her feelings? When had their marriage become something he could change without even consulting her? What about what I need, she asked, her voice breaking. What about what I want? Trevor's expression didn't change. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices for family. I thought I was your family too. You are. But Mom comes first. She always has. The words hung in the air between them like a death sentence. Simone felt something die inside her chest, something that had been struggling to survive for months. She had been holding on to hope that their marriage could get better, that Trevor would remember how to love her, that they could find their way back to each other. But now she understood that she had never been his priority. She had been his convenience. The waiter approached their table, notepad ready. Are you folks ready to order? Simone looked at Trevor, who was already scanning the menu as if nothing had happened. As if he hadn't just destroyed their anniversary and possibly their marriage with his announcement. As if she was supposed to smile and order dinner and pretend everything was fine. Actually, she said, standing up slowly, I'm not hungry anymore. Trevor finally looked up, irritation flashing across his features. Simone, don't be dramatic. Sit down and let's eat. But she was already walking away, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor as she moved through the restaurant. Behind her, she could hear Trevor calling her name, but she didn't turn around. She couldn't. If she looked back now, she might see the pity in the other diner's eyes, or worse, she might see the lack of concern in her husband's. The night air was cool against her skin as she stepped outside. She stood on the sidewalk, breathing deeply, trying to process what had just happened. 5 years of marriage, and this was how Trevor chose to celebrate their anniversary. Not with love or romance or even basic respect, but with a unilateral decision that would change everything. Her phone buzzed with a text from Trevor, stop being childish. Come back inside. Simone looked at the message and felt something harden inside her chest. Childish. That's what he thought of her reaction to being blindsided on their anniversary. That's what he thought of her feelings. She deleted the message without responding and called a taxi. As she waited, she thought about the news she had been so excited to share with Trevor. The promotion at work that would mean more money and more flexibility. The way she had imagined his face lighting up when she told him. The celebration she had planned for after dinner. Now, none of it mattered. Her husband had made it clear that her thoughts, feelings, and opinions were irrelevant in their marriage. He had shown her exactly where she stood in his priorities, and it wasn't anywhere near the top. The taxi pulled up, and Simone slid into the back seat. As they drove away from the restaurant, she caught a glimpse of Trevor through the window. He was still sitting at their table, phone in hand, completely unbothered by her absence. That image would stay with her for a long time. Her husband, on their anniversary, more concerned with his phone than with the wife who had just walked out on him. It told her everything she needed to know about their marriage. And it was the beginning of the end. The taxi dropped Simone at home 20 minutes later, but she didn't go inside immediately. Instead, she sat in her car in the driveway, staring at the house she had called home for 5 years. The 2-story colonial with its white picket fence had been her dream home when they bought it. She had spent countless hours decorating, planting flowers, making it beautiful. Now it felt like a prison she was about to share with her warden. Her phone had been buzzing constantly with calls and texts from Trevor, but she ignored them all. She wasn't ready to hear his voice, wasn't ready for his anger or his attempts to make her feel guilty for leaving. She needed time to think, time to process what had just happened. The front door opened, and Trevor stepped out onto the porch. Even from a distance, she could see the irritation in his posture. He spotted her car and walked over, his face set in hard lines. "What the hell was that about?" he demanded as she finally got out of the car. "What about?" Simone replied, keeping her voice steady despite the anger burning in her chest. "You walking out on me in the middle of a restaurant. Embarrassing me like that." She stared at him in disbelief. "I embarrassed you? Trevor, you announced that your mother is moving into our house without even asking me how I felt about it. On our anniversary. I told you, there wasn't time to discuss it. Mom needed an answer." "There's always time to discuss major life decisions with your wife," Simone said, her voice rising. "Unless you don't actually care what your wife thinks." Trevor's jaw clenched. "Of course I care what you think. But this isn't negotiable. My mother needs help, and I'm going to help her. By moving her into our house. Permanently. Without asking me. I'm telling you now." Simone felt her carefully controlled composure cracking. "Telling me isn't the same as asking me, Trevor. Telling me is what you do to employees or children, not to your wife. Look, I know this is an adjustment, but you'll get used to it. Mom's actually a lot of help around the house. She cooks, she cleans." "I don't want your mother cooking and cleaning in my house," Simone interrupted. "I want my privacy. I want to be able to walk around my own home without worrying about what I'm wearing or what I'm saying. I want to be intimate with my husband without worrying about who might hear us." Trevor's expression grew uncomfortable. "We'll figure it out." "We?" "There is no we in this decision, Trevor. You've already figured it out. You've decided that your mother is more important than your wife, that her needs matter more than mine, that our marriage comes second to your mother." "That's not true. Isn't it?" Simone challenged. "When was the last time you asked me what I wanted? When was the last time you considered my feelings before making a decision that affects both of us?" Trevor opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. She could see him trying to think of an example, and the fact that he couldn't find one quickly told her everything she needed to know. "I thought so," she said quietly. They stood there in the driveway, the silence stretching between them. Simone looked at her husband and tried to remember when things had changed. When had he stopped seeing her as an equal partner? When had he started treating her like an afterthought? "The moving truck comes tomorrow morning," Trevor said finally. "I need you to help me get the guest room ready." Simone shook her head slowly. "No. What do you mean, no?" "I mean no, I won't help you move your mother into our house. This is your decision, Trevor. You can handle the consequences yourself." Trevor's face flushed with anger. "She's going to be your family too, Simone. The least you can do is be civil about it." "Civil?" Simone laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want me to be civil about being completely excluded from a major decision about my own life? You want me to smile and pretend I'm happy about having my privacy invaded and my marriage pushed aside? You're being selfish." The accusation hit her like a slap. "I'm being selfish? Trevor, I work full-time, I pay half the bills, I take care of this house, I've supported every dream and goal you've ever had. And now I'm selfish because I don't want to live with your mother. Family is important, Simone. I thought you understood that. I do understand that. But I thought I was your family too." Trevor's expression softened slightly. "You are my family. But Mom raised me by herself. She gave up everything for me. I owe her this. What about what you owe me? Simone asked quietly. What about the promises you made to me when we got married? What about putting our marriage first? This isn't about choosing between you and Mom. It's about taking care of family. But you are choosing, Trevor. You're choosing her comfort over mine. You're choosing her needs over our marriage. You're choosing to make unilateral decisions instead of being a partner to me. Trevor ran his hands through his hair, a gesture she recognized from their early days together. Back then, it had been endearing. Now it just looked like frustration that she wasn't falling in line with his plans. I don't know what you want me to say, Simone. The decision is made. Mom moves in tomorrow. Then I guess the decision about our marriage is made too. The words hung in the air between them, heavier than Simone had expected. She hadn't planned to say them, but once they were out, she realized they felt true. Trevor's eyes widened. What's that supposed to mean? It means I won't be treated like a second-class citizen in my own marriage. It means I won't be ignored and dismissed and expected to just go along with whatever you decide. It means I deserve better than this. You're talking about leaving me because I want to take care of my mother. I'm talking about leaving you because you don't respect me enough to include me in decisions that affect my life. Because you think your mother is more important than your wife. Because you've forgotten that marriage is supposed to be a partnership. Trevor stepped closer, his voice getting urgent. Simone, you're upset right now. You're not thinking clearly. Let's go inside and talk about this rationally. I am thinking clearly, she said, stepping back. Maybe for the first time in months. She moved toward the front door, but Trevor grabbed her arm. Where are you going? To pack a bag. You're not serious. Simone looked down at his hand on her arm, then back up at his face. Let go of me. He released her immediately, but his expression remained desperate. Simone, please. Don't do this. We can work this out. How, Trevor? How can we work this out when you've already decided everything? When you've made it clear that what I want doesn't matter? I'll talk to Mom. I'll explain that this is an adjustment period. We'll set some ground rules. Ground rules in my own house. Trevor, listen to yourself. You're talking about setting rules for me to live in my own home because your mother is moving in. He opened his mouth to respond, then seemed to realize how that sounded. I just meant, we can make this work. No, we can't. Because the problem isn't your mother moving in. The problem is that you didn't think my opinion mattered enough to ask for it. The problem is that you've been planning this for months and never once considered how I might feel. The problem is that you think I should just go along with whatever you decide because I'm your wife. Simone moved past him toward the door. I'm going to pack some things and stay somewhere else for a few days. I need time to think. Simone, wait. She paused with her hand on the doorknob. What? I love you. The words should have meant something. They should have softened her anger or given her hope. Instead, they just made her sad. If you love me, Trevor, then you'll understand why I can't stay here tonight. She went inside, leaving him standing alone in the driveway. As she climbed the stairs to their bedroom, she could hear him calling her name, but she didn't respond. She was done talking. She was done explaining. She was done begging to be treated like an equal partner in her own marriage. In the bedroom, she pulled a suitcase from the closet and began to pack. As she folded clothes and gathered toiletries, she thought about the 5 years she had spent in this house, in this marriage. She thought about all the times she had compromised, all the times she had put Trevor's needs before her own, all the times she had told herself that this was what marriage looked like. But it wasn't. Marriage was supposed to be about respect and communication and making decisions together. It was supposed to be about putting each other first, not about one person making all the decisions while the other person just went along with them. She zipped the suitcase closed and took one last look around the bedroom. Tomorrow, Trevor's mother would be living in this house. Trevor would be focused on making her comfortable, making sure she was happy, making sure her needs were met. And Simone would be figuring out what came next. Simone spent the night at her sister's house, lying awake in the guest room and staring at the ceiling. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Trevor's face at the restaurant, heard his casual dismissal of her feelings, felt the sting of being treated like her opinion didn't matter. By morning, she hadn't slept more than an hour. Her phone had been buzzing all night with messages from Trevor, but she hadn't read them. She wasn't ready to hear his excuses or his attempts to minimize what had happened. She needed space to think, to process, to figure out what she wanted to do next. Around 9 a.m., her sister Nicole knocked on the door with a cup of coffee and a worried expression. "How are you holding up?" Nicole asked, settling into the chair by the window. "I've been better," Simone admitted, accepting the coffee gratefully. "Thanks for letting me crash here." "Of course. You want to talk about it?" Simone filled her sister in on what had happened at the restaurant, watching Nicole's expression grow more incredulous with each detail. "He announced that his mother was moving in. On your anniversary? Without asking you? Without even mentioning it before? Apparently, he's been planning this for months." Nicole shook her head in disbelief. "Simone, that's not how marriage works. You don't just make major life decisions without consulting your partner." "That's what I told him. But he seems to think that because she's his mother, my opinion doesn't matter." "What are you going to do?" That was the question Simone had been asking herself all night. She loved Trevor, or at least she loved the man she had married 5 years ago. But the person who had sat across from her at dinner last night felt like a stranger. "I don't know," she admitted. "I need to go home and get some more clothes. Maybe I'll see how bad it really is." Nicole squeezed her hand. "You can stay here as long as you need to. But Simone, don't let him treat you like this. You deserve better." An hour later, Simone pulled into her driveway and immediately saw the moving truck parked in front of her house. Men were carrying boxes and furniture up the front steps, and she could hear Patricia's voice directing them from inside. She sat in her car for a moment, steeling herself. This was her house too. She had every right to be here, to get her things, to see what was happening to her home. The front door was propped open, and Simone could hear the chaos inside before she even stepped foot in the house. Patricia was in the living room, rearranging furniture and barking orders at the moving men. "No, no, that chair goes by the window," Patricia was saying. "And be careful with that lamp. It belonged to my mother." Simone watched as the men moved her reading chair to make room for Patricia's furniture. The chair where she spent her evenings reading, where she relaxed after long days at work, was being shoved into a corner to accommodate her mother-in-law's belongings. "Oh, Simone," Patricia said, noticing her in the doorway. "There you are. I was wondering when you'd show up." The casual tone, as if Simone was late to her own life, made her blood boil. "Hello, Patricia. I hope you don't mind, but I had to move some things around. I need space for my furniture." Simone looked around her living room, which was now crowded with Patricia's belongings. The couch had been moved, her coffee table was gone, and there were boxes everywhere. It didn't look like her home anymore. "Where's Trevor?" Simone asked. "He went to get lunch for the moving men. Such a thoughtful boy. He's been taking such good care of me." The emphasis on thoughtful wasn't lost on Simone. Patricia was making it clear that Trevor was a good son, implying that Simone was somehow lacking as a daughter-in-law. "I need to get some things from upstairs," Simone said. "Of course, dear. Though I should mention, I'll be using the guest bathroom since it's right next to my room. I hope that's not a problem." It was a problem. The guest bathroom was the one Simone used when she didn't want to wake Trevor in the mornings. It was where she kept her expensive skincare products, where she did her hair and makeup when she had early meetings. But apparently, that didn't matter either. "We'll figure it out," Simone said, echoing Trevor's words from the night before. Upstairs, she could hear more noise from the guest room. She peeked inside and saw that it had been completely transformed. Patricia's bed was where Simone's desk used to be, her dresser was against the wall where Simone had kept her exercise bike, and there were clothes and personal items everywhere. Her home office was gone. Her exercise space was gone. Her quiet retreat was gone. "I hope you don't mind," Patricia said, appearing behind her. "I needed more space for my things." "What happened to my desk?" Simone asked. "Oh, Trevor moved it to the basement. He said you could work down there." The basement. Damp, cold, and dark. Trevor had moved her workspace to the basement without asking, just like he had moved his mother in without asking. "I see," Simone said, her voice carefully controlled. "You know, dear," Patricia said, settling into the chair that used to be Simone's, "I think this arrangement will work out well for everyone. I can help with the cooking and cleaning, and you won't have to worry about taking care of Trevor anymore. I know how to make him happy." The words were delivered with a sweet smile, but the message was clear. Patricia was taking over, and Simone was being pushed out of her own marriage. "That's very thoughtful of you," Simone replied, matching Patricia's saccharine tone. "I just want what's best for my son. He's been so stressed lately, working so hard. He needs someone who understands him, someone who can take care of him properly." Again, the implication was clear. Simone wasn't taking care of Trevor properly. She wasn't understanding him. She wasn't good enough. "I'll let you get settled," Simone said, backing out of the room. She went to her bedroom and found that even that space had been invaded. Patricia's medications were on the nightstand, her robe was hanging on the door, and her slippers were by the bed. Simone opened her closet and began pulling out more clothes. She wasn't just packing for a few days anymore. She was packing for however long it would take to figure out if her marriage was worth saving. As she packed, she could hear Patricia downstairs, talking to the moving men, making herself at home. This was Patricia's house now, and Simone was just a visitor. Her phone rang, and she saw Trevor's name on the screen. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of her. "Where are you?" Trevor asked without preamble. "I'm getting some clothes." "Why didn't you come home last night?" "Because I needed space to think." "Simone, you're being dramatic about this. Mom is here now, and we need to make this work." "We?" "Trevor, you made this decision without me. You figure out how to make it work. She's family now. She's part of our family. She's your family. She's made it very clear that I'm not welcome in my own home." "What are you talking about?" Simone looked around the bedroom, seeing Patricia's things mixed in with hers. "She's taken over everything, Trevor. The living room, the guest room, the bathroom. She's even put her things in our bedroom. She's just getting settled. It's an adjustment period." "For who?" "Because it seems like I'm the only one who needs to adjust. You and your mother seem perfectly comfortable with this arrangement. Simone, please come home. We can talk about this. I am home. I'm getting my things from my house. But I'm not staying here while your mother takes over my life. You're my wife. This is where you belong. Your mother made it pretty clear that she's the one who belongs here. She's the one who knows how to take care of you properly." There was silence on the other end of the line. "What did she say to you?" "It doesn't matter what she said. It matters that you chose her comfort over mine. It matters that you moved her in without asking me. It matters that you don't seem to care how I feel about any of this." "I do care how you feel." "No, Trevor. You care that I'm not going along with your plan. There's a difference." She hung up the phone before he could respond and continued packing. Downstairs, she could hear Patricia directing the moving men, making decisions about where things should go, acting like the lady of the house. Because that's exactly what she was now. Patricia was the lady of the house, and Simone was just an inconvenience. As she carried her suitcase downstairs, Patricia appeared in the hallway. "Leaving again?" she asked, her tone suggesting disapproval. "Just getting some things. You know, Simone, marriage requires sacrifice. Sometimes we have to put family first." "You're right," Simone agreed. "Sometimes we do have to put family first." She just wasn't sure anymore which family she was talking about. Simone had been staying at Nicole's house for 3 days when she decided to go back to work. She couldn't hide forever, and she needed the distraction of her job at the accounting firm. But more than that, she needed to feel useful, needed to remember that she was good at something, that she mattered somewhere. Her colleagues noticed her distraction immediately. Simone had always been focused and efficient, but now she found herself staring at spreadsheets without seeing the numbers, reading emails without processing the words. "You okay?" asked her friend and coworker, Lauren, during their lunch break. "Just some personal stuff," Simone replied, picking at her salad. "Want to talk about it?" Simone found herself telling Lauren about Trevor's announcement, about Patricia moving in, about feeling like a stranger in her own home. Lauren listened with growing concern. "Simone, that's not normal," Lauren said when she finished. "My husband would never make a decision like that without talking to me first. Trevor says I'm being selfish. That family comes first. But you're his family too. His wife should come first, not his mother." It was validating to hear someone else say what Simone had been thinking. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't being unreasonable. Trevor's behavior was the problem, not her reaction to it. "What are you going to do?" Lauren asked. "I don't know. I love him, but I can't live like this. Maybe you should talk to someone. A counselor or therapist. Or maybe a lawyer." The word lawyer sent a chill through Simone. She wasn't ready to think about divorce, wasn't ready to admit that her marriage might be over. But maybe she should understand her options, just in case. That afternoon, instead of going back to Nicole's house, Simone found herself driving to their joint bank to check on their accounts. It was something she rarely did. Trevor handled most of their finances, and she trusted him to manage their money responsibly. But as she sat with the bank representative, looking at their account statements, she began to notice things that didn't make sense. Large withdrawals that she couldn't remember. Transfers to accounts she didn't recognize. Money moving in ways that seemed strange. "Can you explain these transactions?" she asked, pointing to several large withdrawals from the past few months. The bank representative looked at the statements. "These appear to be transfers to other accounts. Do you have other accounts with us?" "Not that I know of. Let me check our system." After a few minutes of typing, the representative looked up with a concerned expression. "It appears your husband has opened several accounts in his name only. The money is being transferred to those accounts." Simone felt her stomach drop. Accounts in his name only? What kind of accounts? A savings account, a money market account, and what appears to be an investment account. All opened within the last 6 months. 6 months. Right around the time Trevor would have been planning his mother's move. Right around the time he started becoming distant and secretive. "Can you tell me how much money has been transferred to these accounts?" The numbers the representative showed her made Simone's head spin. Trevor had moved over $40,000 out of their joint accounts and into accounts that she couldn't access. "Is this legal?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Since the money came from joint accounts, yes, it's legal. But it's unusual for one spouse to move this much money without the other spouse knowing about it." Simone left the bank with copies of all their account statements and a growing sense of unease. Why would Trevor move their money into accounts she couldn't access? What was he planning? She drove to a coffee shop and spread the statements out on a table, studying them carefully. The pattern was clear. Trevor had been systematically moving money out of their joint accounts for months. Not just small amounts, but significant portions of their savings. Her phone buzzed with a text from Trevor, "Can we please talk? I miss you." Simone stared at the message, then at the bank statements. Trevor missed her, but he had been hiding money from her. He wanted to talk, but he had been planning major life changes without including her. She typed back, "We need to talk about finances." Her phone rang immediately. "What about finances?" Trevor asked, his voice tense. "About the money you've been moving into accounts I can't access." There was a long pause. "How did you find out about that?" "So you admit it. You've been hiding money from me." "I wasn't hiding it. I was just organizing our finances better." "Organizing?" "Trevor, you moved $40,000 into accounts with only your name on them. That's not organizing, that's hiding." "I can explain." "I'm listening." Another pause. "I wanted to make sure we had money set aside for Mom's care. Medical expenses, medications, things like that." "So you created secret accounts to pay for your mother's expenses?" "They're not secret. I was going to tell you about them." "When?" "After you moved all our money into them." "Simone, you're making this sound worse than it is." "Am I?" "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like my husband has been secretly moving our money into accounts I can't access, right around the same time he was planning major life changes without telling me about those either." "It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Trevor? Explain it to me. I just wanted to make sure we were prepared for the future. Mom's going to need care, and I wanted to make sure we had the resources to help her." "Our resources, Trevor. That's our money you moved. Money I helped earn." "I know that." "Do you? Because it seems like you think you can just make decisions about our finances the same way you make decisions about our living situation. Without consulting me." "I was going to talk to you about it." "When?" "When the time was right." Simone laughed bitterly. "When would that be?" "After you moved all our money. After you made all the decisions. After there was nothing left for me to have a say about." "You're being paranoid." "Am I?" "Trevor, in the past week, I've discovered that you planned your mother's move for months without telling me, that you've been moving our money into accounts I can't access, and that you seem to think I don't deserve to know about any of it. How is that paranoid?" "Because you're acting like I'm some kind of criminal. I'm your husband. I'm trying to take care of our family. By lying to me? By hiding things from me? By making me feel like I don't matter? You do matter. Then why didn't you tell me about the money? Why didn't you ask me before you moved it?" "Because I knew you'd be upset about it." The admission hung in the air between them. Trevor knew she would be upset, so he hid it from her. He knew she wouldn't agree with his decisions, so he made them without her input. "So you knew I wouldn't like it, and you did it anyway." "I did what I thought was best for our family." "You did what you thought was best for you and your mother." "I'm not part of that family, apparently." "That's not true." "Isn't it? Trevor, you've made it very clear that your mother's needs come before mine, that your decisions matter more than my opinions, and that our money is actually your money to do with as you please." "I never said that." "You didn't have to say it. Your actions said it for you." Simone hung up the phone and stared at the bank statements again. $40,000. Money that could have been used for their future, for their dreams, for their marriage. Instead, Trevor had hidden it away, just like he had hidden his plans for his mother. She thought about the conversation she'd had with Lauren about talking to a lawyer. Maybe it was time to understand exactly what her rights were. Maybe it was time to protect herself. Because if Trevor could hide money from her, if he could make major decisions without her input, if he could treat her like her opinions and feelings didn't matter, then maybe she needed to start thinking about her own future. A future that might not include Trevor at all. The next morning, Simone made a decision that surprised even her. Instead of going to work, she drove to Patricia's old neighborhood. She needed to understand who she was dealing with, needed to know if Patricia's move was really about health issues or if there was something else going on. The apartment complex was modest but well maintained. Simone found Patricia's old unit and knocked on the door of the apartment next to it. An elderly woman answered, looking at Simone with curious eyes. "Hi, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm Simone Carter. Patricia Johnson's daughter-in-law." The woman's expression immediately changed. "Oh honey, come in, come in. I'm Mrs. Washington. I was Patricia's neighbor for 8 years." Mrs. Washington led her into a small but cozy apartment and offered her tea. "I heard Patricia moved in with her son. How's that working out?" "It's an adjustment," Simone said carefully. "I was hoping you could tell me a little about her health issues. My husband mentioned that's why she needed to move." Mrs. Washington's eyebrows rose. "Health issues? Honey, Patricia is as healthy as a horse. She walks 2 miles every morning and does yoga 3 times a week." Simone felt her stomach drop. "Are you sure?" Trevor said she had been having problems, that she couldn't live alone anymore. The only problems Patricia had were with the new management company. They raised the rent, and she didn't want to pay it. Said she had other options. Other options? She's been talking for months about how her son owed her, how she sacrificed everything for him and it was time for him to take care of her. She said she was going to make him bring her to live with him. Simone set down her teacup with shaking hands. "Make him?" "Oh yes. Patricia can be very persuasive when she wants something. She has a way of making people feel guilty, making them think they owe her something." "What do you mean?" Mrs. Washington looked uncomfortable. "I probably shouldn't say this, but Patricia wasn't always easy to live around. She liked to control things, liked to be in charge. Some of the other neighbors had issues with her." "What kind of issues?" "She was always complaining about something. Noise, parking, the way people kept their patios. She tried to get several people evicted over the years. Made their lives difficult." Simone felt pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. "Did she ever mention my husband? Trevor?" "Oh, all the time. She was always talking about how successful he was, how much money he made, how he owed her everything because she raised him alone. She said his wife didn't appreciate him properly." The words hit Simone like a punch to the gut. "She said that? I'm sorry, honey. I know you're the wife she was talking about. Patricia never liked the idea of Trevor being married. She said he didn't need a wife when he had her." Simone felt sick. Patricia had been planning this for months, talking about how Trevor owed her, how his wife didn't appreciate him properly. The health issues were an excuse, the timing was calculated. "Mrs. Washington, can I ask you something else? Did Patricia ever mention anything about Trevor's finances? About him helping her with money?" The older woman's expression grew more concerned. "Honey, Patricia's been getting money from Trevor for years. She used to brag about it, said he sent her $1,000 every month because he was such a good son. $1,000 a month. For years. Money that Simone had never known about, money that came out of their joint accounts without her knowledge. Did she ever mention anything about moving in with him being temporary?" Mrs. Washington shook her head. "No, honey. She made it clear she was never coming back here. She said she was going to live with Trevor permanently, that it was her right as his mother." Simone left Mrs. Washington's apartment with her head spinning. Patricia wasn't sick. The move wasn't about health issues. It was a calculated plan to insert herself into Trevor's marriage, to reclaim control over her son, to push Simone out of the picture. And Trevor was either completely oblivious or actively participating in the deception. She drove to another neighbor's apartment and had a similar conversation. Then another. The picture that emerged was clear: Patricia was manipulative, controlling, and had been planning this move for months. She had convinced Trevor that she needed help when what she really needed was control. On her way home, Simone stopped at a small cafe to process what she had learned. She ordered coffee and sat in a corner booth, trying to figure out what to do with this information. Her phone rang. It was Trevor. "Where are you?" he asked. "I went by Nicole's house and she said you left early this morning." "I've been doing some research." "Research on what?" "On your mother's health issues." There was a pause. "What do you mean?" "I mean I talked to her neighbors, Trevor. I talked to people who knew her before she moved in with us." "Simone, what are you doing?" "I'm trying to understand why you believed your mother needed help when she's perfectly healthy." "She is not perfectly healthy. She's getting older, and she needs support. She walks 2 miles every day and does yoga 3 times a week. She's in better shape than most people half her age." "Who told you that?" "Her neighbors. Multiple neighbors. People who lived next to her for years." Another pause. "You talked to multiple neighbors?" "Yes, Trevor. I talked to Mrs. Washington, Mr. Chen, and the Garcias. They all said the same thing. Your mother is healthy, active, and was planning to move in with you long before she claimed to have health issues." "I don't understand why you're doing this." "Because I'm trying to understand why my husband lied to me. Why he believed his mother's story without questioning it. Why he was willing to turn our lives upside down based on a lie." "She's not lying." "She is lying, Trevor. And either you know it and you're lying too, or you're so blinded by your guilt that you can't see what she's doing." "What guilt?" "The guilt she's been using to manipulate you for years. The guilt about her sacrifices, about what you owe her, about how you need to take care of her." "I do owe her. She raised me alone. And you've been paying her back. $1,000 a month, Trevor. For years." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. "How did you know about that?" he finally asked. "So you admit it. You've been sending your mother money for years, and you never told me." "It's not a big deal. $12,000 a year isn't a big deal. Trevor, that's money that could have gone into our savings, our retirement, our future. Instead it went to your mother, who didn't need it. She's my mother. And I'm your wife. But apparently that doesn't matter as much. You're being unreasonable." "Am I? Let me see if I understand this correctly. You've been sending your mother money for years without telling me. She's been planning to move in with us for months, using fake health issues as an excuse. You moved $40,000 of our money into accounts I can't access. And you announced all of this on our anniversary without asking my opinion. And I'm the one being unreasonable. Simone, please. Come home. We can work this out. Can we? Because it seems like you and your mother have worked everything out already. You've decided she's moving in permanently. You've decided she comes first. You've decided that my feelings don't matter. What exactly is left to work out? I love you. Do you? Because love involves respect, Trevor. Love involves honesty. Love involves treating your partner like an equal. And you haven't done any of those things." She hung up the phone and sat in a cafe for another hour, processing everything she had learned. Patricia was manipulative and controlling. Trevor was either willfully blind or actively complicit. And Simone was caught in the middle of a situation that had been engineered to push her out of her own marriage. The question was, what was she going to do about it? The law office of Martinez and Associates was located in a sleek downtown building that made Simone feel both intimidated and determined. She had spent 3 days thinking about everything she had learned, and she knew she needed professional advice. Not necessarily for divorce, but to understand her rights and options. Attorney Sarah Martinez was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a direct manner. She listened carefully as Simone explained her situation, taking notes and asking pointed questions. So your husband has been transferring money to accounts you can't access, sending money to his mother without your knowledge, and making major life decisions without consulting you? Sarah summarized. Yes. And I've discovered that his mother's health issues are fabricated. She manipulated him into believing she needed help when she's perfectly healthy. Can you prove that? I have the names and contact information for several of her former neighbors who can testify to her health and activities. I also have bank records showing the transfers. Sarah nodded approvingly. You've done good work gathering this information. Now, let me explain your legal situation. For the next hour, Sarah outlined Simone's rights regarding marital property, financial disclosure, and legal separation. She explained how Colorado's divorce laws worked, what Simone could expect in terms of asset division, and what steps she should take to protect herself financially. My advice is to document everything, Sarah said. Keep records of all financial transactions, any communications with your husband about these issues, and evidence of his mother's manipulation. If you decide to pursue legal separation or divorce, having this documentation will be crucial. What about the money he's already moved? That's marital property, regardless of whose name is on the accounts. If it was earned during the marriage, you have a right to half of it. But you need to act quickly to prevent him from moving more money or hiding assets. Simone left the lawyer's office with a clear plan of action. She opened her own bank account and began transferring half of the remaining money from their joint accounts. If Trevor could move money without consulting her, she could protect her share of their assets. She also began documenting everything. She printed out bank statements, wrote down dates and details of conversations, and created a file of evidence. If her marriage was going to end, she was going to be prepared. That evening, she called Mrs. Washington and asked if she would be willing to provide a written statement about Patricia's health and activities. Mrs. Washington agreed immediately. Honey, I've been worried about you since our conversation. That woman is trouble, and I hope you're taking care of yourself. I'm trying to, Simone replied. I just need to understand the full scope of what I'm dealing with. Well, if you need me to testify or anything like that, just let me know. Patricia talked about you constantly, and none of it was good. She was planning to get rid of you from the beginning. The words confirmed what Simone had been suspecting. This wasn't just about Patricia needing help or Trevor being a good son. This was a deliberate campaign to destroy her marriage. Her phone buzzed with another text from Trevor, "Please come home. Mom made dinner." The casualness of the message infuriated her. As if everything could go back to normal just because Patricia had cooked a meal. As if the lies and deception could be forgotten over pot roast and mashed potatoes. She didn't respond to the text. Instead, she called her friend Lauren. I need to ask you something, Simone said when Lauren answered. Do you think I'm crazy for considering divorce over this? Simone, your husband lied to you about money, made major life decisions without you, and brought his manipulative mother into your home based on fake health issues. I think divorce might be the most reasonable response. I just keep thinking about our wedding day, about how happy we were, about all the plans we made together. But that was before he showed you who he really is. People can change, and not always for the better. I feel like I'm giving up. You're not giving up. You're protecting yourself. There's a difference. That night, Simone lay in Nicole's guest room and thought about the conversation with Lauren. She wasn't giving up. She was finally standing up for herself after years of compromise and accommodation. The next morning, she drove to her house to get more clothes and was surprised to find Trevor's car in the driveway. He usually left for work by 7 a.m., but it was already 9 o'clock. She let herself in quietly and heard voices coming from the kitchen. Trevor and Patricia were talking in low tones, and something about their conversation made her pause in the hallway to listen. She's been asking questions about my health, Patricia was saying. Talking to the neighbors from my old place. What kind of questions? About whether I'm really sick, about whether I really needed to move out. What did you tell her to say? There was a pause. I told her the truth, Trevor. That you're a good son who wants to take care of his mother. But she's getting suspicious. She's been asking about money too. What about money? The money I've been sending you. The accounts I set up. She somehow found out about all of it. Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe now she'll understand that your first loyalty is to your family. She is my family too. Is she? Because family doesn't make you choose between them and your mother. Family supports you when you're trying to do the right thing. Simone felt sick listening to the conversation. Patricia was manipulating Trevor even now, making him believe that Simone's reasonable reactions were unreasonable demands. I just wish she would come home, Trevor said. I miss her. Do you? Or do you miss having someone to take care of you? Because I can do that now. I can cook for you, clean for you, make sure you're comfortable. You don't need her for that anymore. It's not about that. Isn't it? Trevor, you're a successful man. You deserve someone who appreciates what you do, who supports your decisions, who puts your needs first. Has Simone ever done that? She used to. Used to. But not anymore. Now she questions you, challenges you, makes you feel guilty for wanting to take care of your mother. Is that the kind of marriage you want? Simone had heard enough. She quietly backed out of the house and sat in her car, shaking with anger and hurt. Patricia was actively working to destroy her marriage, and Trevor was letting her do it. She pulled out her phone and called Sarah Martinez. I need to file for legal separation, she said when the lawyer answered. As soon as possible. What changed? I just heard my mother-in-law telling my husband that he doesn't need me anymore. And he didn't disagree with her. I can have the papers ready by this afternoon. Good. Because I'm done fighting for a marriage that only one person wants to save. As she drove away from the house, Simone felt a mixture of sadness and relief. The marriage she had thought she was fighting for was already over. Trevor had chosen his mother over his wife, and Patricia had won. But Simone wasn't going to go down without a fight. If Patricia wanted to play games, if Trevor wanted to lie and deceive, then they were going to face the consequences. And Simone was going to make sure those consequences were significant. The legal separation papers were served to Trevor at his office on a Thursday afternoon. Simone had specifically requested that they be delivered at work, knowing that the public nature of the service would send a clear message about how serious she was. Trevor called her within an hour, his voice frantic and angry. What the hell is this, Simone? Legal separation? Are you out of your mind? I'm protecting myself, she replied calmly. Something I should have done a long time ago. This is insane. We can work this out. We don't need lawyers. We needed communication, Trevor. We needed honesty. We needed you to treat me like an equal partner. Since none of those things were happening, yes, we need lawyers. I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you thought I wouldn't. That evening, Simone was having dinner with Nicole when her phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize. Hello. Simone. This is Rebecca. Rebecca Carter. Trevor's sister. Simone was surprised. She had met Rebecca a few times over the years, but they weren't close. Rebecca lived in California and rarely visited, which Simone had always assumed was due to distance and busy schedules. Hi, Rebecca. How are you? I'm calling because I heard about what's happening with Trevor and Mom. Oh. Simone, I need to tell you something. Can we meet somewhere? I'm flying in tomorrow morning. You're coming here? Yes. There are things you need to know about my mother and Trevor. Things that might help you understand what you're dealing with. They arranged to meet at a coffee shop near the airport. Simone spent the night wondering what Rebecca could possibly tell her that would change anything. She already knew Patricia was manipulative. She already knew Trevor was choosing his mother over his wife. But when Rebecca walked into the coffee shop the next morning, her expression was grim and determined. "Thank you for meeting me," Rebecca said, settling into the booth across from Simone. "I came as soon as I heard what was happening." "How did you hear?" "Trevor called me, crying, asking me to talk to you. He said you were being unreasonable about Mom moving in." "And what did you tell him?" Rebecca's mouth twisted into a bitter smile. "I told him he was an idiot. And then I told him I was coming to talk to you." Simone was taken aback. "You don't think I'm being unreasonable?" "Reasonable? Simone, you're being way too reasonable. If I were you, I would have burned the house down." "I don't understand." Rebecca leaned forward, her voice intense. "Simone, my mother has been planning this for years. She's been working on Trevor systematically, convincing him that he owes her, that his wife doesn't appreciate him, that he needs to choose between his family and his marriage. She told me she was sick. She's not sick. She's never been sick. The only thing wrong with Patricia Johnson is that she's a narcissist who can't stand the fact that her son has a life that doesn't revolve around her." Rebecca's words confirmed everything Simone had suspected, but hearing it from Trevor's own sister was both validating and terrifying. "Why didn't you warn me?" Simone asked. "Because I thought Trevor was stronger than this. I thought he would see through her manipulation. I thought his love for you would be enough to protect your marriage. It wasn't. No, it wasn't. And I'm sorry. I should have intervened years ago." "Years ago?" Rebecca sighed deeply. "Simone, there's something else you need to know. Trevor's first engagement was broken off because of Mom." Simone felt her blood run cold. "What? He was engaged before he met you. A wonderful woman named Lisa. Mom did the same thing to her that she's doing to you. She moved in with them, took over their home, made Lisa's life miserable until she couldn't take it anymore. Trevor never told me about any engagement. Of course he didn't. Because he knows what happened was wrong. He knows Mom destroyed that relationship, and he knows she's trying to destroy yours too." Simone felt sick. "So this is a pattern." "It's not just a pattern. It's a strategy. Mom has been destroying Trevor's relationships his entire adult life. She can't stand the idea of sharing him with anyone. But why doesn't Trevor see it? Because she's been manipulating him since he was a child. She's convinced him that he owes her everything, that his first loyalty should always be to her, that any woman who tries to come between them is selfish and unreasonable." Rebecca pulled out her phone and showed Simone a series of text messages. "These are messages Mom sent me when she found out I was coming to see you. She's furious that I'm interfering in her plans." Simone read the messages with growing horror. Patricia was calling Rebecca a traitor, accusing her of trying to destroy the family, threatening to cut her off completely if she talked to Simone. "She's trying to isolate Trevor," Rebecca continued. "She wants him to believe that everyone is against him except her. That's why she moved in with you. She's not just trying to push you out. She's trying to make Trevor completely dependent on her." "What about the money? The accounts Trevor set up?" Rebecca's expression darkened. "Mom has been planning this for years. She's been convincing Trevor to save money for her future care, to set aside funds for her medical expenses. But it's not about medical expenses. It's about control." "Control how?" "If Trevor has all the money in accounts that only he can access, then you have no financial independence. If you want to leave him, you can't afford to. You're trapped." The full scope of Patricia's plan became clear to Simone. It wasn't just about moving in with them. It was about completely controlling Trevor's life and making sure no other woman could ever threaten that control. Rebecca, I need to ask you something. Do you think Trevor knows what he's doing? Do you think he's aware of how manipulative your mother is? Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. I think part of him knows. But he's so deep in her web of guilt and manipulation that he can't see a way out. She's convinced him that being a good son means sacrificing everything else. Including his marriage. Especially his marriage. Because a wife represents competition for his attention and loyalty. Mom can't allow that. They talked for another hour, with Rebecca sharing stories of Patricia's manipulation over the years, her pattern of destroying relationships, her need to control every aspect of Trevor's life. What can I do? Simone finally asked. Honestly? I think you're doing exactly what you should do. You're protecting yourself, you're gathering evidence, and you're not letting her manipulate you into staying in a situation that's destroying you. I still love him. I know you do. But Simone, love isn't enough when the other person won't fight for the relationship. Trevor has to choose to see what Mom is doing, and he has to choose to put his marriage first. Until he does that, nothing will change. Do you think he ever will? Rebecca's expression was sad. I hope so. But I've been waiting for him to stand up to her for 30 years, and it hasn't happened yet. As they parted ways, Rebecca hugged Simone tightly. I'm sorry, she said. I'm sorry my family is putting you through this. You deserve so much better. Driving home, Simone thought about everything Rebecca had told her. The pattern of manipulation, the destroyed relationships, the systematic isolation. She wasn't just dealing with a difficult mother-in-law. She was dealing with a woman who had made destroying her son's marriage her life's work. And Trevor was either too weak or too blind to stop her. The revelation from Rebecca had shaken Simone to her core, but it had also given her a sense of clarity she hadn't had before. She wasn't imagining the manipulation. She wasn't overreacting. She was dealing with a woman who had spent years perfecting the art of controlling her son's life. But Rebecca had also given her something else. Hope that she wasn't alone in this fight. I want to help you, Rebecca had said before leaving. I've been a coward for too long, letting Mom destroy Trevor's life. Maybe it's time I did something about it. 2 days later, Rebecca called with news. I've been in touch with Lisa, she said. Trevor's ex-fiancée. She's willing to talk to you. I don't know if that's a good idea, Simone said. What would be the point? The point is that you'll have someone who understands exactly what you're going through. Someone who can validate your experience and maybe help you see things more clearly. Lisa Martinez, she had gone back to her maiden name after the broken engagement, lived in Denver and worked as a nurse at a local hospital. She agreed to meet Simone for lunch at a quiet restaurant downtown. Lisa was a petite woman with kind eyes and a gentle demeanor. Looking at her, Simone could see why Trevor had been attracted to her, and she felt a stab of jealousy that surprised her. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me, Simone said as they settled into their booth. Rebecca told me what's happening. I couldn't say no. I've been where you are. She told me about Patricia moving in with you and Trevor. Lisa's expression darkened. It was a nightmare. She took over our apartment, criticized everything I did, made me feel like an intruder in my own home. And Trevor just let it happen. How long did it go on? 8 months. 8 months of feeling like I was losing my mind, like I was being unreasonable for wanting privacy in my own home, for wanting my fiancé to put our relationship first. What finally made you leave? Lisa was quiet for a moment, stirring her coffee absently. Patricia told me that Trevor didn't really love me. She said he was only with me because he felt sorry for me, because I was convenient. She said a real woman would be able to handle sharing her man with his mother. Did you believe her? Not at first. But Trevor never defended me. He never stood up to her. He just kept saying that she was his mother and I needed to be more understanding. Eventually, I started to believe that maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't strong enough for him. Maybe I wasn't the right woman for him. Simone felt tears prick her eyes. I'm going through the same thing. I know. Rebecca told me. The difference is, you're fighting back. You're not letting them convince you that you're the problem. It's hard not to believe it sometimes. When your own husband treats you like your feelings don't matter, it's easy to start thinking maybe they don't. They do matter. You matter. And the fact that Trevor can't see that says everything about him and nothing about you. They talked for over an hour, sharing stories of Patricia's manipulation, Trevor's weakness, and the slow erosion of their sense of self-worth. It was both heartbreaking and healing to talk to someone who truly understood. Can I ask you something? Simone said as they prepared to leave. Do you think Trevor is just weak, or do you think he's actively choosing his mother over his wife? Lisa considered the question carefully. I think he's convinced himself that keeping his mother happy is the path of least resistance. He doesn't want to deal with her guilt trips and manipulation, so he sacrifices his wife's happiness instead. Because we're easier to sacrifice. Because we love him enough to put up with it. Patricia trained him to believe that real love means never making demands, never asking him to choose, never expecting him to put you first. That's not love. No, it's not. But it's what he's been taught love looks like. As they parted ways, Lisa gave Simone her phone number. If you ever need to talk to someone who understands, call me. And Simone. Don't make the mistake I made. Don't let them convince you that you're not worth fighting for. That evening, Simone called Rebecca to tell her about the lunch with Lisa. How are you feeling? Rebecca asked. Sad. Angry. But also relieved. It helps to know I'm not crazy. You're not crazy. You're dealing with a very sick dynamic that's been going on for years. Rebecca, can I ask you something? Why didn't you ever try to help Trevor see what your mother was doing? There was a long pause. Because I was afraid. Afraid of Mom's anger, afraid of losing my relationship with Trevor, afraid of being cut off from the family. I took the coward's way out and moved across the country so I wouldn't have to deal with it. But you're dealing with it now. Because I've watched this pattern destroy too many relationships. I've watched Mom hurt too many good women. I've watched Trevor become someone I don't even recognize anymore. What do you mean? He used to be kind, Simone. He used to be considerate and loving. But years of Mom's manipulation have turned him into someone who can't see past his own guilt and fear. Do you think he can change? I hope so. But he has to want to change. He has to be willing to see what Mom is doing and choose to stop it. And if he doesn't, then you'll have to choose what's best for you. And from where I'm sitting, that choice is already pretty clear. The next day, Simone received an unexpected phone call from Mrs. Washington, Patricia's former neighbor. Honey, I hope you don't mind me calling. I got your number from the phone book. Of course not. Is everything okay? Well, I've been thinking about our conversation, and I remembered something that might be important. Patricia used to get visitors sometimes. A man who looked like her son. Trevor. I think so. He would come by once a month or so, always looking stressed and unhappy. Patricia would make him stay for hours, and I could hear her crying and carrying on through the walls. Crying about what? About how hard her life was, how much she had sacrificed, how ungrateful people were. The man would always leave looking exhausted. Simone felt a chill. How long had this been going on? Years, honey. Years. She had that poor man wrapped around her finger. After hanging up, Simone realized that Patricia's manipulation of Trevor wasn't new. It wasn't a response to his marriage or a recent development. It was a lifelong pattern of emotional manipulation and control. Trevor had been living under his mother's thumb for his entire adult life, and he had brought that dysfunction into their marriage. The question was it too late to save him from it? Or more importantly, was it worth trying? The family barbecue was Patricia's idea, of course. 2 weeks after the legal separation papers had been served, she announced that she was hosting a gathering to bring the family together and work things out. Trevor called Simone personally to invite her. "Mom thinks it would be good for everyone to sit down and talk," he said, his voice strained. "She's invited Rebecca, and some of my cousins. She wants to clear the air." "Clear the air?" Simone almost laughed. "Trevor, your mother isn't interested in clearing the air. She's interested in making me look bad in front of your family." "That's not true. She just wants everyone to get along." "Since when has your mother cared about me getting along with anyone?" "Simone, please. Just come to the barbecue. Give us a chance to work this out." Against her better judgment, and with encouragement from Rebecca, Simone agreed to attend. But she wasn't going unprepared. The barbecue was held in Trevor and Patricia's backyard. Simone had stopped thinking of it as her home. Patricia had decorated with balloons and streamers, creating a festive atmosphere that felt completely at odds with the tension underlying the gathering. Several of Trevor's cousins were there, along with Rebecca and her husband. Patricia played the role of gracious hostess, making sure everyone had food and drinks, acting like the loving mother who just wanted her family to be happy. "Simone, dear," Patricia said when she arrived, "I'm so glad you could make it. I was telling everyone how much we've missed you. The performance was flawless." To anyone who didn't know better, Patricia seemed like a concerned mother-in-law trying to heal a family rift. For the first hour, everyone made polite conversation. People asked about work, shared family news, and avoided the elephant in the room. But Simone could feel the undercurrent of tension, the weight of unspoken words. Finally, Patricia stood up and called for everyone's attention. "I wanted to thank you all for coming today," she began, her voice warm and emotional. "Family is so important, and it breaks my heart to see our family divided." She looked directly at Simone. "I know there have been some misunderstandings recently. Some people feel that I've intruded on their lives, that I've caused problems in their marriage." Several people shifted uncomfortably. Patricia's voice took on a wounded tone. "All I ever wanted was to be close to my son. I raised Trevor by myself, sacrificed everything for him. I worked 2 jobs to put him through college, went without so he could have what he needed. And now, in my golden years, when I need some support, I'm being made to feel like a burden." Simone felt her blood pressure rising. Patricia was masterfully playing the victim, making Simone look like the villain who was trying to keep a son from his loving mother. "I never wanted to cause problems," Patricia continued, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "I just wanted to be part of my son's life. I wanted to help, to contribute, to be useful. But apparently, some people think that's wrong." Trevor looked miserable, torn between his wife and his mother's tears. Several cousins were nodding sympathetically, clearly buying into Patricia's performance. "I've been thinking," Patricia said, "maybe I should just go to a nursing home. Maybe I should just remove myself from the situation so everyone can be happy." "No, Mom," Trevor said immediately. "That's not what anyone wants. Isn't it?" Patricia looked at Simone with wounded eyes. "Some people seem to think I'm not welcome in my own son's home." This was Simone's moment. She had 2 choices: she could defend herself and try to explain the truth, or she could let Patricia's performance stand unchallenged. She chose a third option. "You're right, Patricia," Simone said, standing up. "You should go to a nursing home." The backyard fell silent. Patricia's eyes widened in shock. "Excuse me? You heard me. You should go to a nursing home. Not because you're not welcome, but because you're not actually sick." "I don't know what you mean." Simone pulled out her phone and began reading from her notes. Mrs. Washington, your neighbor for 8 years, says you walk 2 miles every morning and do yoga 3 times a week. Mr. Chen says you're the most active person in the complex. The Garcias say you spend most of your time organizing community events and complaining about the management. Patricia's face went pale. I don't know why you're listening to gossip. I'm not listening to gossip. I'm listening to facts. The fact is, you're not sick. You're not frail. You don't need help with daily activities. You manipulated Trevor into believing you needed care when what you really needed was control. That's not true. Isn't it? Simone looked around at the gathered family members. Let me tell you what's really been happening. Patricia has been systematically destroying Trevor's relationships for years. She broke up his first engagement using the same tactics she's using on me. Simone, stop, Trevor said, his voice weak. No, I won't stop. Your family deserves to know the truth. She looked at Patricia. You've been manipulating Trevor his entire adult life. You've convinced him that he owes you everything, that his first loyalty should be to you, that any woman who tries to come between you is selfish and unreasonable. I raised him alone, Patricia said, her voice getting defensive. And you've been using that as a weapon against him ever since. You've been sending him on guilt trips, making him feel responsible for your happiness, convincing him that being a good son means sacrificing everything else in his life. Simone turned to address the whole group. She's been taking $1,000 a month from Trevor for years. Money that came out of our joint accounts without my knowledge. She's been planning this move for months, using fake health issues as an excuse to insert herself into our marriage. These are serious accusations, one of Trevor's cousins said. They're not accusations. They're facts. And I have documentation to prove all of it. Simone pulled out a folder she had prepared. Bank statements showing the money transfers. Written statements from Patricia's former neighbors about her health and activities. Phone records showing months of planning between Patricia and Trevor. She handed copies to Rebecca, who began distributing them to the other family members. She's not a sick old woman who needs help, Simone continued. She's a manipulative narcissist who can't stand the idea of her son having a life that doesn't revolve around her. How dare you, Patricia said, her mask finally slipping. How dare you try to turn my family against me? I'm not turning anyone against you. I'm just telling them the truth. The truth you've been hiding behind tears and guilt trips and fake health scares. I am sick. No, you're not. You're perfectly healthy. You're just sick of not being the center of Trevor's universe. Patricia's composure cracked completely. I gave up everything for him. Everything. I deserve to be taken care of. You deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. But you don't deserve to control your adult son's life. You don't deserve to destroy his marriage. And you don't deserve to manipulate and lie to get what you want. The backyard was dead silent. Patricia stood frozen, her careful facade completely destroyed. Trevor looked like he was going to be sick. I have one more surprise, Simone said. I filed for divorce yesterday. Trevor's head snapped up. What? I filed for divorce. Our marriage is over, Trevor. Your mother got what she wanted. Simone, please. We can work this out. No, we can't. Because you've never been married to me. You've been married to your mother. I was just the other woman. She looked around at the shocked faces of Trevor's family. I'm sorry you all had to witness this. But I'm done pretending that this is a normal family situation. I'm done pretending that Patricia's behavior is acceptable. And I'm done fighting for a marriage that only one person wanted to save. She picked up her purse and walked toward the gate. Rebecca, thank you for everything. Everyone else, good luck dealing with the truth. As she reached her car, she could hear Patricia's voice rising in anger and Trevor calling her name. But she didn't look back. For the first time in months, she felt free. 6 months later, Simone stood in the kitchen of her new apartment, watching the sunrise through the window as she prepared coffee. The one-bedroom place was smaller than the house she had shared with Trevor, but it was hers. Every piece of furniture, every decoration, every decision was hers alone. The divorce had been finalized 3 weeks ago. Trevor had fought it initially, but eventually he had to accept that Simone was serious. With the documentation she had gathered and the testimonies from Patricia's former neighbors, her lawyer had been able to secure a favorable settlement. Half of their assets, including half of the money Trevor had hidden in his private accounts, was now hers. Patricia had not gone to a nursing home. She was still living with Trevor in the house that had once been Simone's home. According to Rebecca, who called regularly with updates, Trevor seemed miserable but was apparently unwilling to ask his mother to leave. He made his choice, Rebecca had said during their last conversation. Now he has to live with it. Simone's phone buzzed with a text message. She smiled when she saw the name on the screen, Marcus Rodriguez. She had met Marcus 3 months ago at a professional networking event. He was a financial advisor, divorced with 2 teenage daughters, and possessed the kind of quiet confidence that came from someone who had learned to value himself. Their first conversation had lasted 3 hours. He had asked about her work, her interests, her goals for the future. He had listened to her answers with genuine interest and had shared his own experiences with vulnerability and honesty. "I'm not looking for someone to complete me," he had said on their second date. "I'm looking for someone to complement me. Someone who has her own life and interests and dreams." It was exactly what Simone needed to hear. His text message was simple: "Good morning, beautiful. Coffee date this afternoon?" She typed back, "Yes. My place or yours?" "Yours. I'll bring the pastries." Simone smiled and set her phone aside. She had learned to trust her instincts again, to value her own opinions, to expect respect and consideration from the men in her life. Marcus had never made a decision that affected both of them without asking her input. He had never dismissed her feelings or treated her like her opinions didn't matter. The difference was striking. Her doorbell rang at exactly 2 o'clock. Marcus stood on her doorstep with a box of pastries from her favorite bakery and a smile that made her heart skip. "Hi," he said, leaning in to kiss her cheek. "Hi yourself." They settled on her couch with coffee and pastries, talking about their weeks, their work, their plans for the weekend. It was easy and comfortable and real. "Can I tell you something?" Marcus said, setting down his coffee cup. "Of course. I love how you've rebuilt your life. I love how strong you've become, how you've learned to value yourself. It's inspiring." Simone felt tears prick her eyes. It wasn't easy. The best things never are. He reached for her hand. "I know we've been taking things slow, and I respect that. But I want you to know that I'm serious about this. About us. I'm serious too." "Good. Because I was thinking it might be time to meet each other's families. My daughters have been asking about you." The idea of meeting Marcus's daughters was both exciting and terrifying. She had been so focused on healing from her divorce that she hadn't thought much about the possibility of becoming part of another family. "I'd like that," she said. "Though I should warn you, my family situation is complicated." "Whose isn't?" They spent the afternoon talking about the future, about possibilities, about building something real together. It was the kind of conversation Simone had never been able to have with Trevor, the kind of planning that involved both people's input and consideration. That evening, as Marcus was preparing to leave, Simone's phone rang. She was surprised to see Trevor's name on the screen. "I should take this," she said apologetically. Marcus nodded and stepped into the kitchen to give her privacy. "Hello, Trevor." "Hi, Simone. How are you?" "I'm fine. What do you need?" "I wanted to talk to you about something." "Mom is," she's been having some problems lately. Simone almost laughed. What kind of problems? She's been paranoid, accusing me of trying to get rid of her. She thinks I'm planning to put her in a home. Are you? I don't know. Maybe. She's been difficult to live with. Difficult how? She wants to control everything. What I eat, what I wear, who I talk to. She gets angry when I work late or go out with friends. She says I'm being ungrateful. Simone felt a familiar stab of vindication. That sounds familiar. I think I understand now what you were trying to tell me. About the manipulation. Do you? I'm sorry, Simone. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. I'm sorry I chose her over you. I'm sorry I ruined our marriage. The apology she had been waiting for months to hear felt anticlimactic now. I'm sorry too, Trevor. I'm sorry it took losing your wife for you to see what your mother was doing. Is there any chance, could we try again? I could ask Mom to leave. We could start over. Simone looked toward the kitchen, where Marcus was quietly cleaning up their coffee cups. She thought about the man who respected her opinions, who included her in decisions, who valued her as an equal partner. No, Trevor. There's no chance. But if I changed things? You had 5 years to change things. You chose not to. Now it's too late. I love you. I know you do. But love isn't enough when it comes without respect. After she hung up, Marcus returned to the living room. Everything okay? He asked. Everything's perfect, she said, and meant it. 2 hours later, Simone stood on her balcony, looking out at the city lights. She thought about the woman she had been a year ago, desperately trying to save a marriage that was already over. She thought about the nights she had spent crying, wondering if she was being unreasonable, if she was asking for too much. She thought about Patricia, still living with Trevor, still controlling his life, still convinced that she had won. In a way, she had won. She had succeeded in destroying Trevor's marriage. But she had also trapped herself with a son who was beginning to resent her control, a son who was finally starting to see her manipulation for what it was. Simone's phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca, heard from Trevor lately. She typed back, he called tonight. Wants to get back together. And I told him no. Good for you. You deserve so much better. I found better. Really? Tell me everything. Simone smiled and typed, his name is Marcus, and he treats me like I matter. That's all any of us can ask for. As she prepared for bed that night, Simone reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. The betrayal, the anger, the legal battles, the slow process of rebuilding her life and her sense of self-worth. It had been painful, but it had also been necessary. She had learned to value herself, to demand respect, to recognize manipulation when she saw it. She had learned that she was strong enough to stand alone and wise enough to recognize when someone was worthy of standing beside her. Trevor had made his choice. He had chosen his mother's manipulation over his wife's love, his mother's control over his own freedom. Now he was living with the consequences of that choice. And Simone was living with the consequences of hers. The difference was, she was happy.